People will say, school didn't work for me. And then other people will come along and go, but it worked for me. Like, it worked really well. Did it work well for you? Or you just did well at playing the game? Because that's great if you did, but what should education be for? Like, what are those years supposed to be for? Because they're theoretically supposed to be these foundational years that get you ready for life. You can be really good at school, and then the game of life happens, and you're like, wait a second, I got straight A's. How come I don't have this figured out? That's the problem. That's the design. It's not the same game.
Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Awesome, man. No, honor is absolutely my own, man. Appreciate you having me.
Well, Matt, I am interested. We're going to get into what you're doing and who you are throughout this conversation, but I really want to kick things off. You're doing something unique with education. Talk to me about curiosity. Talk to me about why curiosity matters for young people and how it's being beat down in the school systems today. I think that'll get you revved up and started, and we could go into who you are and all the other cool stuff as we go.
Yeah, I got no problem starting there, man. I don't think curiosity is just important for young people. I think it's important for people. I think it's actually a factory setting for people. What I mean by that is I think we come out curious. I think we are born curious. And I think it's pretty easy to see that with a young person. Anybody that's listening that's got kids, you remember those first couple years. Everything is like you're just full of wonder, man. Right? You're looking around at the world and you're like, ooh, why, daddy? Why? 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 How come this? How come this? I want to touch this. I want to do this. I want to try this. That's normal. So everything we're talking about here is getting young people to either maintain the factory settings, which curiosity is one, or getting adults who have lost the curiosity back to those factory settings. And I won't pretend that school is the only thing that strips us of our curiosity, but it's a big part of it. And what I get a lot of pushback on is 'cause people don't listen. So I want to make sure I'm really, really clear. There are really, really good people in what I call the conveyor belt school system. There's great teachers, there's great administrators, they're great humans. There's bad ones too, of course, but there's so many great ones, right? And so I love them, I support them, but I never support a system that was intentionally designed to strip that curiosity out, to make people apathetic. That's the design, man. It was designed as a behavioral management program to get obedient humans who no longer are curious. They just go, okay, I'm just going to have to succumb to this life of the authority in front of me is going to tell me what to do, when to do it, what I need to, quote unquote, know or regurgitate back. And that's going to be my life from here on out. And so we strip that curiosity from our kids, which, by the way, leads to adults who are not curious, who have habits of now not being curious. And then as they go to raise their own kids and they see all this wild curiosity, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But now I got to send you to school, and the system and the cycle continues. That's what we're breaking.
Yeah, and for the audience to have some background, I didn't want to get right into, hey Matt, tell me who you are and what you've done, but you've built schools, and I think what's really cool is in 2017 you founded the Acton Academy Placer School, utilizing the Socratic method. So this is something that's very near and dear to your heart. And lately, you co-founded Apogee Strong with Tim Kennedy, and this is a mentorship program designed for young men, 12 to 22, but it's really expanded into just about everybody, which is really exciting. Give us just a little insight into what you're working on right now, because I have some comments I'd like to go into based on the curiosity thing
Yeah,
after.
for sure, man. So everything we're doing on the Apogee umbrella is that we're building out multiple programs that are all designed to be able to stand alone, but they really come together. We say they're all the different fingers that can survive on their own, but when they come together, it's the hand that's trying to grasp sovereignty and freedom that this country was built on. Right. So it started out as just the young men's mentor, and I say just, but the young men's mentorship program and young men from all over the world that they have a very specific roadmap that we are laying out that is really around education. It's not repeating school. It's around education. It's an educational experience, educational opportunities that allows them to build their own background, their brand, their identity, their experiences, and then to articulate that in ways that open up doors for them later on. So they got this roadmap they follow. They've got workouts. They've got readings. They've got a private platform that we're pouring into them every single day and every week. they're meeting with some of the best men on the planet. You and I were talking about Nick Lavery offline. Nick's come in with them. I was just talking to Andy Frisella this morning. He's come in with the young guys. Like, I mean, the list goes on and on and on, pouring into these young men. So we got the virtual mentorship program. That turned into a virtual mentorship program for the dads as well. So we've got hundreds of men from around the world now, which turned into the moms, the ladies, and we got the young ladies on the way. We've got homeschool families that have a very similar type program. And we are launching about 50 campuses of our own, K through 12, boys and girls, coming this fall of 2024. When we're partnering, we think we'll probably end up partnering with another 100 in 2025. So we're launching physical campuses. And in these physical campuses, the young men and women are going through a very similar journey on campus. Socratic method is still very much involved. Physical fitness, project-based learning, starting businesses, very entrepreneurial. They're doing internships, they're doing apprenticeships. And mom and dad, while their heroes are going to that campus, they go through Apogee Man. They go through Apogee Woman. So it's truly education for the entire family. And all of that is kind of culminating. We had a bunch of live events that we're kicking off in every single state, starting up here this year as well. So we're going to do all 50 states, live events to kick off all of it. So
That's awesome.
yeah, man.
When we were talking about curiosity, I have always been an entrepreneur brain. I've always been curious, like beyond curious, really. And there's nothing that I have never that I've seen that I haven't wanted to make better. And when you do that, you walk into a school and you feel like you're in prison. To this day, when I walk in, and I do a ton at the Catholic schools. My boys went to Catholic school up through the 8th grade. Then they went to public school. My youngest son, as we were talking off air, is in an academy playing soccer. We made a transition this year where he's now doing an online school, which is essentially like a homeschool program, so he can get morning training done. He can do afternoon trainings. The amount that he's getting done in a third of the time that my son is sitting in school for 7-8 hours a day, my oldest son, is amazing. And guess how more interested he is to learn. And he doesn't walk into those walls and feel like the prison's like closing in around him. And so I love just the idea, because I've always felt like that, which I'm sure is why you're doing what you're doing, because you felt the same way, right?
Man, so here's the deal. Like, I figured out the game early, and I just played the game and played it well. Right? Like, that's one of the things. So people will say, oh, well, school didn't work for me. And then other people will come along and go, but it worked for me. Like, it worked really well. Did it work well for you? Or you just did well at playing the game? And because that's great if you did, but what should education be for? Like, what are those years supposed to be for? Because they're theoretically supposed to be these foundational years that get you ready for life. So your son is playing soccer, right? So because he's working towards playing soccer, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say all the practices and the things that he's going to, what do they play? Soccer, probably, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be weird if we said, all right, Scott, your son, like, we really want him, like, he's got a potential to do all these cool things in soccer. So we're going to have him come to this academy. And then all day long, man, we're going to have him play basketball. He'd be like, well, that doesn't make sense. Right. And yeah, he can get really good at basketball. But then when he gets really good at basketball and is asked to then go on the soccer field and go, okay, let's transfer all, you'd be like, well, shit, shouldn't I have played soccer? Right? Hey, welcome to school. You can be really good at school. And then the game of life happens and you're like, wait a second, I got straight A's. How come I don't have this figured out? That's the problem. That's the design. It's not the same game, right? So I did really well in school. I got straight A's the whole way because I figured out the game. That's all. And then I got done and went, cool. Now nobody cares. The world doesn't care that I got straight A's. Nobody cares. What can I do? Who am I? How much do I know about myself? How much value can I go create? What kind of patterns can I recognize? Who's my circle of friends? What am I spending my time on? What are my habits? Like, what, all of those things that the world actually asks you to prove and be competent in were not things that I spent my time on. So do well in school, don't do well in school. It's not a predictor of what you're going to do in life. That's a problem. We should use those years wisely.
Well, it's really interesting. We have lots of friends whose kids are straight A students, and when they're straight A students, they get ready to go to college, and they really almost like just expect to have the best universities want them. They expect this result, like they're just going to keep following directions. And it's funny because I've never ever put the value or the weight as a father on the grade. I put it on the effort. I put it in like if you're challenged at something, how can we learn better? I would pull up the Khan Academy when they were young, and I'd say, hey, let's look at it from a different way. There's got to be a different way to pull this data up because my boys are they're more entrepreneur driven, they're more disciplined, they're great teammates, they can build anything from the ground up when it comes to ideas and I think business concepts. I think they're frameworking that type of stuff. But science and math isn't always what they're going to be great at. Mom's a school teacher. So at the end of the day, mom teaches in the public school system for, kindergarten for 21 years and every single day comes home frustrated. Her number one frustration is her inability to actually teach kids what they need to use. And so, as you talk about these things, I think back of the very first week that my son goes up to this new training academy, soccer. I had to convince my wife that this was okay, that he's going to be just fine. And in week 1, he sends us a text. He had ridden his bike or scooter up to the local coffee shop up the street. Mondays are asynchronous days, so he didn't have training until the evening. He's sitting in a coffee shop at 14, doing his schoolwork on his own, getting ahead so he has more time to train later, comes home, eats one of his high protein mighty meals that he's got. And I look at my wife and I said, he did his own laundry. He's
Mm,
done all these things that he was coddled with in some respects
yep.
for a long time. Watching his growth and development as a man, as
Yeah.
a human, was
Yes.
so valuable that I know he'll thrive when he gets to the real world.
Bingo. So he's being led well. So shout out to you and the wife right there. He's being led well. That's not a product of
The
the
school.
academy. Hopefully
Right.
it helps. I really hope they do, and I'm sure they're doing a great job. So shout out to them too. But shout out to you guys for leading well. Like that's it, right? And so there's different levels to what you just said right there too. That I just want again. It's just I think people need to think through this and just be intentional on this. I understand circumstances and I get it. I get all of those. I get the whole thing. I pay attention to life, so I know how it works. But let's talk about this too. So you said effort. Does the effort matter? Yeah, the effort is what matters, right? 100%. But also effort at what? Because sometimes we'll put a lot of effort, and we do it as adults too. We'll put a lot of effort into something that doesn't matter, but we'll call it. We'll wonder why we don't have progress, and we'll call it, effective. But we're like, eh. So your wife, she's a kindergarten teacher for 21 years. That's awesome. Does she come home and put a ton of effort into fixing the engine in the car? No, it doesn't. That
It's
doesn't.
not going to matter.
It's not going to matter.
Nothing
That
she
doesn't.
does will change that system because the system's broke.
Doesn't. And so it doesn't change that, right? It doesn't make. And so for our kids too, even the ones that are doing what your son's doing, putting in the effort, rocking it. That's awesome, man. What if he got to put in that same amount of effort towards something that actually moved him forward too? Like, you can put a ton of effort into school if it still doesn't transfer into something great later in life. I would still argue there's a waste of time that's happening there. So, like, how that's my whole thing is like, how do we get people to be as intentional as efficient as they want? I don't my own personal thing, man. I don't want to look at my schedule for the day and be like, I got 3 hours of intense effort into that video game right there. Why? Because it doesn't do anything for anybody. It doesn't serve a purpose. So I'm not going to put an intense effort into that. I don't want to waste people's time. And I think that and I don't want to waste my own. And I think so many people are stuck in a rut of wasting so much time, man. And it's like it's antithetical to what we started talking about, that curiosity.
Yeah, well, and when you have a bad system, the other challenge is that even good people turn into the system. And so the challenge is, I think we saw this during COVID. We saw so many sheep that just responded with whatever they were told, and nobody asked any questions. And it was like, I don't care how political something becomes, I don't care what's going on. Like, people that don't ask questions are just so embedded into a system that they're quitting on themselves, their families, and their futures. And that is so imperative to what you're teaching. What you're trying to do is you're trying to say, how can we maximize time at what you're great at? What are some things you're going to need to be great at in life, regardless of what you do? You have to learn how to pay the bills. You have to learn how to be a good teammate or partner in whatever you do. You have to learn how to actually potentially grow your own food and do some of these things. Talk to me about some of the things that Apogee is teaching so that people can understand a little bit about what you're prioritizing to maximize time.
So it's exactly what you just said, right? It's those the meta skills. What are the things we say meta skills, meaning what are the things that are always going to matter no matter what? Right. And so I'll ask you, and good question, what you just said right there, good questions, right? Good questions are always better than good answers. So I'll ask, so Scott, as of this conversation, it is Thursday, March 7th, 2024. That's when you and I are talking, right? What is the most in demand job Thursday on March 7th, 2035?
I don't know. What is it?
I have no idea. Neither do you, right? What is college application like? What is the relevance of college? What does the college application look like in June of 2041?
No clue.
Yep, you have no clue. Neither do I. So, the thought that we are going to prepare our kids for a future that changes more rapidly now than ever before by doing the same thing of like, no, everybody needs to, do these sight words at this age, and you need to take algebra at this age, and you need to, is silly on its face. Like, you don't even have to die. Give me the source for that, obviously. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So when we say meta skills, what are the meta skills? What are the things that are always going to matter? You started touching on some of those. You're going to have to understand how to communicate with people, right? You're going to have to understand how to work with people. And communication, let's define those terms too. You're going to have to be able to articulate what it is you believe, why you believe it, what are my ideas. I'm going to need to be able to be emotionally in control when somebody else has a different idea than I do. I'm going to have to actually be able to genuinely listen to their point of view and have to figure out, do they have better evidence? If they have better evidence, what do I need to be able to do? I need to be able to adapt and change my mind because now better evidence is presented, right? This is what an educated person is able to do. So I've got to be able to engage in civil discourse, right? I have to be able to engage in my own curiosity and ask really good questions to understand. I need to be physically healthy. Physical health, it does not go away. I need to understand, where does my food come from? What foods are good? What foods are really not foods at all? What are the things that I need to like? What makes me feel good? How do I grow that food? How do I obtain that food? How do I avoid the other stuff? I need to understand those things, right? I need to understand what things I like and what things I'm good at, what things I don't like, what things I'm not good at, what things I can partner with somebody, what things I need to be able to push through that like actually it doesn't matter. I just need like, what is reading for? I need to be able to read, but what do I need to do with that? Well, I need to actually be able to integrate that information. I need to be able to either talk through and write through my ideas so I can organize my thinking, or I need to be able to implement some of these ideas to go forward and change my life. So I need to be excited about books, actually. So these are the things that we're focusing on. What does the world actually value? It's that. And then when you have those things, well, then sometimes the academia, you can attach it to that, right? But it's those kind of things. So our kids are engaging in civil conversations. They're engaging in Socratic conversations. They're engaging in reading, but applying the things they've read, both in conversations, writing, and organizing their thoughts around it, as well as being able to implement, ideas into how does that work. They're focusing on their daily habits. What does it look like to control your schedule? What does it look like to control your schedule and look through it through a code of virtues and values? What are my virtues about? What is my code? Where did that come from? How do I see the world through that and actually, walk through that? How do I provide value to others? How do I serve others? How do I build a business around something that serves others? How do I get my idea out there? That's what they're doing on these campuses. They're doing the things that matter in life.
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, you're talking about a fundamental thing that I think everybody has an aha moment on if they ever break free of the restraints of the old version of themselves, and that is control the controllable. If we're teaching young kids how to control what they can control, Diet is a perfect example. You can go out and eat a bunch of bull crap foods and eat total garbage and then say, I don't know why I'm so sick, but it's a controllable thing. There are versions of that become uncontrollable. There are genetic issues, but the reality is control what we can control. And anytime I've hit a really big challenge in my life, in family, in faith, in anything, even health, I write down on a piece of paper, what can I control and what can I not control? And usually that framework is substantial. The other thing that you said that I think is really powerful, I can't tell you how many times my wife and I are completely thrown off by the fact that the young woman or young man at the local restaurant cannot problem solve at all. Like, if they don't have the robotic layout and computer program in front of them, you call and and you say, "Hey, I have a party of 8. We're happy to sit next to each other if that makes it easy." And they're looking at a sheet that says, "No, I have to seat this person here and then I have to sit this person here." And they don't have the ability to problem solve. And so just teaching kids the ability to solve a simple problem, communicate, understand what the person's saying, and then go ahead and execute. These are such simple things, but they will take them so far in life.
That's it. It's the things that'll take them the furthest in life. I've had young men walk off a stage at one of my schools and walk straight into they're 18 years old, they graduate high school, and they walk straight into a career level position at 18 years old, $70,000 starting salary, overseeing a bunch of college graduates, right? And so why did that young man that I'm thinking of, why did he walk into that position? Want to know why? Because he was on campus, a prospective parent walked in. He walked up to the parent. He said, "Hi, how are you?" Looked him in the eye, said, "Hi, how are you?" Shook his hand, said, "My name is, what can I do for you? How can I help you?" And the guy's like, "Wait a second, what?" And he's like, "How can I help you?" The guy's like, "I'm here to learn more." And he's like, "Okay, cool. The tour is going to start here, but I'll actually walk you around. I'll answer any questions that you have." Walked him around. That guy immediately came up to me and he's like, "Hey, here's who I am, but I want that guy. I want to hire him." That company that this man worked for, they changed their entire nationwide policy. They had never ever hired 700 plus employees. They had never hired anybody without a college degree. And they hired him to go in right. And that was the only thing they knew. That's it.
Unbelievable.
Because he just came in and showed himself to be mature, responsible, at peace in his own mind, able to hold a conversation, able to figure out some things, able to figure out a problem, like just interact with the world. And it's not that he's magical, and it's not that the school is magical. It's that we didn't load them down with a bunch of other BS. We let them stay connected to those factory settings. This is what all people will do if they're not bogged down. If you got a phone, it does what it's going to do. As soon as you start putting so much crap and malware and just garbage in there, it malfunctions. That's what we're doing to our kids. We're loading them up with a bunch of garbage that goes against their factory setting. And then we're like, oh, why are you not functioning? We're cutting them off at the knees and going, how come you can't stand up? It's not hard. It's actually simple. The hard part is that parents and society are so attached to the cult of, no, oh gosh, no, 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 no. They would be, they need trigonometry right now. No, 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 no. They need to take, this specific. Everybody needs to take this specific quote unquote English class at this time, right? And they need to read and they need to do well on a scantron. And they've got an emotional connection to something that is designed to break a human spirit.
Yeah. It's powerful. What you're teaching is when we have confidence in ourselves, we put that out to the world and that energy is received by other people. It's the same as loving ourselves. We talk about young women. You want to establish the highest value for young girls and young women. We have to teach them to love themselves because nobody can love you until you love who you are and what you stand for. And you actually have some concept of that. When someone, a young person, walks up to another human and they shake their hand, and they look them in the eye, they've already put themselves in the top 10% of all people that that individual knows in his life. He has not met very many people confident in themselves enough to have that kind of conversation. And that comes from a freedom. That comes from freedom of that individual being able to really explore who he is and what he stands for. It's funny you said you always got straight A's. I was an honor roll student and I got by. I went to Catholic school. I can remember you talk about discipline. I'm grateful for the discipline that I received in some ways because it really made me comfortable in discipline in general looking back. But at the same time, it wasn't until I got to college and started studying criminal justice, which interested me at the time, and I read everything. I mean, if they provided a book, I read the whole book, and I went through the data, made straight A's, and it was finding what you love, finding what you're really interested in learning about, and you're gonna be interested at different things at different times in your life. That's the other thing, and so allowing kids to explore different options, allow them to find their path in life, the last thing I'll say is when you talk about college, it's funny. My son was he was exploring where to play soccer. My oldest son is going to go play soccer in college, and my wife and I were having the conversations, and they go into like, well, you need to search what major and blah blah blah. And I like pulled him aside. I was like, look, dude, go and play soccer and major in whatever you want. You can get a business degree at any school. You're going to go and play soccer. What you're going to get from playing Division 1 soccer at NCAA level, which is less than like 1%
Mhm.
of athletes, okay?
Yep.
That's what you're gonna learn from this. You're gonna get up early. You're
Yep.
gonna work hard. You're gonna injure yourself. You're gonna fight through it. You're gonna figure it out. And
Yep.
along the way, you're gonna get a piece of paper that doesn't mean jack shit
Yep.
until you actually apply it in the world. And that's the key. And I didn't realize that until way too late. So we're teaching them the difference. And I think
Yep.
obviously that's what you're working on.
That's awesome, man. That's exactly it, man. That's exactly what he's gonna get. And he's gonna get, potentially a network out of there. He's also gonna get the opportunity to mess up with a whole lot of opportunities to do something stupid, right? And so, like, that's part of it too, right? Is he gonna be smart enough and have the wherewithal and be mature enough to go, no, this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna not waste my time going backwards on this. Like, he's gonna have that kind of stuff, the classes, all that kind of stuff. It's great. He doesn't have to pay for it, but a lot of that's just superfluous. Like, it's not gonna make it. It's not gonna make an impact, on anything. It's gonna be more of a time waste. So that's the thing he's gonna get out of it. I love that.
What
That's
what are you doing when they so you're setting up brick and mortar schools now, right? So these how many of those exist across the country right now?
So we're launching almost 50 this fall. So we've got partners all over, and so we're doing it. It's an affiliate model. It's not a franchise. It's an affiliate model. So if you think about like CrossFit,
Yep.
right? So people that want to bring it to their community, that's one of the things we get all the time. Hey, please come to our community. Oh, bring it. You bring it to the community. Like, we'll help you do it the right way. But this is your business. Like, we will help you to do this and to bring this to the community. So we've got about almost 50 that are launching across the US, Vancouver, and one in Australia, coming in the fall. So Tim has, helped Tim open the one in
Yep.
Cedar Park, Texas. But that was initially under the Acton umbrella that both of us were under. I'm a fan, man, and I love that. And we want to support what Acton's doing as a network as well. But this is it. There's some differences as far as what we're doing. So we got Tim's there at Cedar Park, but yeah, they'll be in 20, 22, 23 states, I think, come fall, and then we'll be looking for more people to partner, man, and do more in 2025.
What does it look like if someone wants to partner with you? So, me and a buddy of mine who's a retired Navy SEAL after 20 something years, we're having a conversation 2 weeks ago, and we're just talking about trends. And
Hmm.
we're like, hey, one of the big trends that we see are that people want to understand how to do things on their own. They want to learn how to grow their own food. They want to have a place they can go to get away from it all. They want to, phones went dead last week, AT&T,
Yep.
Sprint, etc. My phone was completely out of commission until noon.
Yep.
So I woke up, had no way to use it to pay for anything, had no way. Like if you think about the impact that that one small thing could do, right? But one of the other trends we talked about was this homeschool pod mentality. I did not know you existed. I did not know this
Yep.
until I started researching and I started looking at it. I'm like, this is exactly what we were talking about. That groups of people getting together and creating something different
Yeah.
for the benefit of the next generation, which is exactly what you guys are aiming to do, correct?
That's exactly what we're doing. That's 100% what we're doing. So we've got people, anyways listening, I encourage them to go check out the website, apogeestrong.com. There's a little hour-long documentary that talks about, kind of our take on education. You can hit the schools link and you can see the map of where all the campuses are that are currently launching. You can get some insight in there. And we're building out the FAQ section on the and when I say building out the FAQ section, I think right now we're at like 109
It's
videos.
in depth. Like,
Uh,
I was going through some of the videos, like, it's every question. I don't have that many questions when it comes to I'm more of a, "Let's set the damn thing up and see where it goes, and we'll
yeah,
figure it out from there."
yeah, that's awesome, man. No, so I mean, we're trying to give as much info as possible.
No, it's perfect.
And then what we're doing is we will launch again, and I'll put on my social. Tim will do it on his social. We'll do it on the Apogee social. We'll do it on the website. But we'll launch another open call. Last year, all we did, Tim and I jumped on, Instagram, and we're just like, hey, we're looking for people to partner with. Here's an application if you're interested. We had 400 applications. People that were interested in bringing it to their community. And so I imagine this year we're going to have, just as many, if not more, inquiries. And we're getting them on, daily as it is right now. And what we'll do is it's a dating process. So it's literally, hey, here's who we are. Here's what we believe. Here's what we believe about education. Here's what this looks like. And so people will put the application in, but it essentially brings them to, we'll start scheduling Zoom meetings with everybody, all at the same time. As much as I want to have a one-on-one conversation with hundreds of people, I just can't. So like we'll bring them in, we'll all chat and go, here's who we are as an organization. Here's what we provide. Here's all the support we provide. Here's all the materials we provide. Here is how you're connected to our foundations and how that helps your schools. Here's all of it. We also need a background on who you are. Like, who are you? Why are you doing this? What do you want to do? Are you a good person? Do you hold the same values? Can we see that? We go through that dating process, and then people are able to jump in and trademark and start coming through the training and getting the materials and all that. We just got to make sure we're aligned. And if we're not, we're not. We're not there to convince anybody of anything. It either makes sense to you or you're like, yeah, and we're like, cool, man, that's good. Go do your thing. Because we're actually about sovereignty and freedom. Like that's what this is all about. So that's it, man. It's a big dating process.
It's really interesting to me and something that I have a very strong belief in, and that is I'm very proud and happy that my parents took the time to teach me what was important to them, to
Yeah.
this country, to their faith.
Yeah.
And as people get older, there's this mentality to just let kids figure it out.
Mhm.
And part of the reason that we're in this problem that we're in where kids have no confidence, they're anxious, they can't get through a day without popping a pill. Like, the
Mhm.
reason we're here is because people are afraid to share
Mhm.
what they believe in. And so
Mhm.
when you say, I believe in sovereignty, I believe in freedom, I believe in these things, tell me how you're doing that with your own family. You mentioned you've been married 18 years, I believe. Is that what you said?
We've been together 18, been married 15.
Okay. All right. So I've been married 21 years in May
Awesome.
and been together 26 years, I guess. I think we got married 5 years in, so we were babies.
That's awesome.
Um, but I get it. So tell me how you're doing this in your family because obviously you don't just do it out in the real world, you're living it.
Yeah, 100%, man. So everything in our family, we say it's a we, it's not a me. So we have a family. One of the biggest things for us, we have a family contract, and it hangs up. It says Beaudreau family rules. We all put them together. It hangs up in our hallway, so that we see it as we pass by. And so we've got, our family rules. It's essentially our family values. It's our family systems, where we say, look, we see the world through this. Like this is the lens. We all operate in this. So the most important thing is that mom and dad, it's not a do as I say, not as I do. That's a bunch of crap, right? Your kids are going to do what you do before they do what you say. So you better be the person that you want them to be. So first and foremost, it's us leading by example. It's us following all of this. And yes, we need to hold them accountable to all of these different rules that are here. And so by rules, I mean, different standards, right? So like one of our rules is to be a copycat. And what that means to us is that you follow the patterns of people who have come before you who are doing the things you want to do, right? That their success leaves patterns. So we follow good humans who are doing good things. What are the patterns they're leaving us? Like we need to follow that because it can unlock some things for us. Like we got all these rules. What's the key is that they can hold us accountable to that, right? So if I come into the kitchen and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, dude, these people, I was trying to talk to these families, and like this family is just like, whining and complaining. And my son can be like, hey, dad, rule number 6, no complaining, fix it. You sound like you're complaining right now. So what's the solution? Is it something you need to walk away from, or is it something you actually need to build a solution for? And he says it like that respectfully, which is how they do it. I need to go, you're right. It did sound like I was complaining. So here's my solution. Here's how I need to fix it. Right. So that is the biggest thing for us is we have that foundation. Right. And so then after that, it's controlling, like you said, controlling the controllable. So what's controllable? We everybody knows everybody's schedule. So we control the controllables by controlling our time, and everybody has specific priorities in their day and their time. And we support each other on making sure that the time is used wisely throughout the day and everybody knows what's going on there. So like, we prioritize, we live on a farm now, so we prioritize things like, the chores and taking care. Everybody's got responsibilities, massive amounts of responsibility early, young, often. So they got a lot of chores. They're starting their own businesses, making their own money. All of them have jobs on site and off site.
Yeah, and what are the ages again?
Mine are 13. One's about to turn 11 on Monday, and 8.
Okay.
So 13, 11, 8. And so they're all working on site and off site. They've all got responsibilities to take care of in terms of priorities, in terms of like reading, and having great Socratic conversations around the reading. They all have specific projects, schoolwork projects that they're working on. They're all home educated, but they got specific projects they're working on and things they're creating. They all have workouts are a daily non-negotiable. They have experiences, which for us means like horses for one, gymnastics for another, ninja warrior and kickboxing for another. So like it's the same stuff they're going to need as adults. We're all engaged in making sure everybody else is successful on their journey.
That's awesome. Now, what do you have a farm now.
Mhm.
How do you escape this? Is there time that you and your wife take to separate from the day to day? Are you what are some of the things that you guys do 18 years together, 15 years married? Like what's some of the as you're going through and you're doing a lot of the things people talk about doing. So a lot of couples sit in their living room and they talk about the fact that they're going to prioritize their family, they're going to set up these values, they're going to I've done it with my wife. There are parts of this that we've done, there are parts of it that we failed at.
Right.
And we do the best that we can but as we listen to this, it's interesting and I think people would be interested to just understand, okay, so that's a lot of responsibility. Are there days where you're able to take a what I call a ROM, the rekindle our marriage weeks, where we go on a vacation. I separate mom from the kids. We get to have time alone. We remember.
Yeah.
It's that phone reset, the hard reset. It's like okay, now we go back to it again. What are
Yeah.
you doing to keep that going?
Yeah. It's a big question, man. In our house, so it's a really good question. In our house, one of the things like Valentine's Day, right? We actually don't celebrate Valentine's. Nobody does. We forget that it's even a thing. Part of the reason is because we're intentional every freaking day. So one of my mentors that I love dearly has a very famous quote. His name is Seth Godin. Some of the listeners may know who Seth is. He's a brilliant human. Seth says instead of like focusing on getting to your next vacation, maybe build a life you don't need a vacation from. And we've taken that seriously. So this is house number 9 for us in 15 years of marriage because we knew eventually we wanted to get here. I got a journal that's over here that's actually within view in my office right now. And it's a journal that she and I used to write back and forth to each other when we were dating, right? And lived in separate places, and we right, she'd come over to my place, and I had this written. She would take it back. She would write, we went back and forth, kind of stuff, right? And there's this whole thing about how eventually someday we want to live in the mountains, and both of us wanted to live in the mountains and have a farm and have animals and have the tree. So like we took that seriously, and as we've been building our life, everything we're doing is a we, right? So yes, I was a teacher, but we were involved in that career and what I was going to do on my side, right? She was involved in nonprofits, but we were involved in the decision as soon as we had kids to bring her home. And this is intentionally what we want to build as a family. I started speaking all over the world and doing 70 freaking keynotes a year and traveling like crazy, right? But that was a we business. She was helping me on that side. It was a means to an end. So that reconnect, daily reconnect is what matters most to us. So yeah, we've lived on this farm for 2 years. We've taken no vacations, zero zip zilch. We've gone nowhere. Do we have date nights and stuff? Of course. Like we'll go do
Yeah.
that. Like we'll go, but every day it is on my count. I talk about not wasting time. There is at least 1 hour every day, and it's usually 1 hour. And I see her all day long. We'll pass, we'll talk, we'll hang out. But at the end of the day, for that hour, it's just her and I. We're connecting. How's it going? How are you? Here's what's going on now. Where are you? Like it's that daily. When we do that, we're not having to do a hard reset because there's nothing to reset.
Yeah.
Like for us, that's what works. And I'm not saying nobody, like I'm just saying that for us.
No, no, no. But I think that's part of the point that I was making. I think the point that I was getting at is so many people talk about doing things that you're actually doing, and it's more of a dream. And then they wake up and the kids are gone. I mean, I can tell you the most powerful challenge I've dealt with in the last several years was dropping my son off, my youngest son, and driving home and realizing oldest son's going to college, youngest son is now living away, and all that we've been working for is this nothing else mattered. Like just nothing else mattered than that relationship. And it's really reframed my wife and I's mentality in a lot of ways. She's a teacher because it was the best thing for our family. Now, because she's a teacher in the public schools, we can't just get up and go visit him when he has a game somewhere, or she has a strict schedule, and that schedule impedes our ability to do some of the things that we want to do as a family. So we've had to restructure our conversations and identify where we're going.
Oh, so yeah, 100%, man. And that's, man, yes, absolutely. I get the comment. Oh, it must be nice. You got a farm, so it must be nice. You can have your kids with you. Oh, it must be nice. You got, your kids around there all the time. Must be nice. Your wife doesn't have to work. Must be nice. Yeah, all of it. It is nice. It is. It's really nice. And hey, guess what? When I was 22, I lived in a Toyota Corolla. That wasn't nice. Guess what else wasn't nice? When we had my oldest daughter was 2 months old, we were sticking with that decision for my wife to stay home. I made $31,000 that year with a wife and a new baby, and we lived in California, by the way, in an expensive area. And so, yeah, that wasn't nice. As I was building the campuses for my kids to go to and building out businesses, I was also on 200 plus flights a year. And we were having to make sure because we knew what we were working towards and working for. And sometimes when I'm stuck, miles away and stuck and flights are getting canceled and stuff, and she's alone with, 2 kids or 3 kids, that wasn't nice, but we were staying connected and we were committed to this goal. So yeah, now it's nice, right? But it's all of those things like committing, and you have to be together on this journey. It's not one person's dream, it's our family. And how are we going to do this? How are we going to make the most of it right now to get to where we want to be? And that patience, it's all of those.
Yeah, and the things you're teaching the kids, the things that you're living are the things that are really important. And that is, what you're describing. When someone says it must be nice, it always bothers me because when you say it must be nice, it means that A, you're not celebrating success, and B, you're forgetting the work it took to get to that success. So, my buddy played professional baseball for, almost 2 decades in the majors, and, I remember standing in the driveway having a conversation right after he was getting ready to retire, and he said people always came up to him and they were like, "It must be nice, to just play baseball," and he's like, "Dude, they forget the years I played in the rookie leagues, and I was in the minors on shitty buses going from town to town making nothing." In baseball, you get maybe 1 good contract, and if you're lucky, you get 2. And so, yeah, everybody sees the end, but they don't see all the work that goes into it to that point, and so we have to teach our kids, this is part of the journey, and it is nice, damn it. It is supposed to be nice.
That's right. And you know what? I'll tell you what. Here's what I also know to be true. If you can't enjoy your life in those hard times, you're not going to enjoy it when it gets less hard. Period. Sorry, you're not going to. Like, in the midst of all the craziness, we found joy. In the midst of all the craziness, we found joy is a byproduct of having a mission together and pushing forward through the hard stuff and being able to go high five on the freaking small victories and being able, like, we found joy there too, which is why we got here. If you can't find joy where you are now and everything's like, oh, it must be nice out there, must be not, I promise you, not only will you most likely never get what you think you want, you wouldn't be happy when you got there anyways because you just haven't learned to be happy. You used a word earlier at the very beginning, you're talking about balance, right? And you're saying, look, everybody that's doing this stuff, it's an imbalance life. It's imbalanced in terms of time, right? Like, it is. It's just inherent imbalance. But even when you're imbalanced that way, if you have balance up here in between the ears, you can be balanced there without being balanced in your actions. And if you're able to do that, it doesn't matter where you're going. Like, you're good. You're solid. It's that. It's always an internal game first. And that's why education matters so much because it's a wildly personal game. Being educated partially is being able to be balanced up here as you're pursuing these goals. Being balanced up here while life is imbalanced. Being balanced up here while you're going through the hard stuff, knowing that you're doing it for a reason and for a purpose. Being balanced up here and having relationships with the people that matter most to take them along on that journey too. That's where it matters.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, sometimes we have to separate and kinda look at our life from the outside in, or maybe the inside out even. Like, I feel like that's what that self-reflection when I do the life model and I look at part of the model is to identify the imbalance so that I can actually make adjustments. So, it's being aware enough, stepping out of myself, looking at where time's going, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, where our priority is, where it shouldn't be, and what you usually find is you can make a few adjustments, a few alterations, no different than the gardening you described early in the relationship. I mean, early in the conversation, like if we're talking about gardening, you make adjustments. Like you see the bugs are eating something, you have to throw some lime on it or whatever you end up doing. I don't know. My dad's a gardener and I didn't pay enough attention to it, so it's a lesson I need to learn. But it's a recalibration and it's being aware so that you can look at yourself, but you have to be confident enough to be able to identify some of those things, and that starts with education as well. It
That's
starts with
exactly it, and it's
that
an
intro.
infinite game, just like when you and I were saying, "Look, we don't know what 2040 looks like, 2042." We don't have any idea. It's an infinite game. We will continue to need to recognize patterns, to make adjustments, to have that game continues until you're 6 feet under. It just does. So you can be a byproduct of what everything you can be apathetic, you can be just like whatever everybody else tells me to do and whichever way the wind blows me, like you can operate that way or you can control what you can control, do the best of your ability and do all the things we're talking about here. It's two vastly different life. One's a life, one's an existence.
So when you were looking at your farm, you're 9 properties in, you found the place you want to settle in. What were some of the things you were looking for? Was there anything? Did you move states? What was the process to find the right place?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. So we had gone property to property. Everything was like a little extra of what we wanted, a little extra, different area, a little more space. We were in California, born and raised California, born and raised Bay Area, and so we were there for a long time. We'd been in the Sacramento area after we got married, so a little bit here and there. We ultimately were like, okay, we know we want to get to it. And part of it was based on my daughters at the time were like they were getting into horses, specifically my older one, and they were working on their businesses to have money to buy a horse. So I'm like, if you guys get enough money to buy a horse, I need to make sure we have a place that you can have a horse.
Yeah.
So we actually had worked our way into a little ranch, like a 3-acre ranch in California, which is not an easy place to find a freaking ranch. We worked our way into this community. My daughters both bought horses. So we had a little bit of horses there. Everything was cool. And we had everything like we loved the people that we had in California. We loved all of that. Didn't love California, but I love the people. And we had built out everything, a good version of life for us. But we also knew we eventually wanted to go bigger on the farm side, and it was really about self sustainability. That was really the biggest impetus. It was like, hey, I got a short list of places I would leave California for. We had, 8, 9 states that we are interested in. And if we can get, my wife wanted to be she's a farmer at heart. She's like, I really want to be able to like dive into this and produce and grow food and raise animals. My kids very much lean towards that. So it just made sense. So we were really looking for farms that were already pretty operational that we could jump into. That was really it. And that's when we found this one in North Carolina. And it was already operational, multiple buildings on site, a processing facility on site connected to local restaurants. They were providing food to local restaurants. There was security up and down the mountain, multiple wells, fencing already done, like electric fencing already done. It
Yeah.
was operational, man. So
You had all the basics done so you could
dude,
go
we
in,
had it all
because
done.
anytime you're going into a new place, I've been looking at farms for years now and just trying to find the right spot, but more as a secondary place, at this stage, but that might change in the near future, who knows? But when I look at it, I'm in Virginia, so Virginia, North Carolina, very similar, the opposite, they're almost mirrored states. And but in the western part of the state, there's so much value and so much opportunity. But you have to find the farms that are already existent. When you start looking at what goes into it, you move into some small town and you want to start putting all this stuff in and you don't know anybody. That is a very, very uncomfortable situation.
Not that it can't be done,
Oh yeah, right.
dude, that's a massive undertaking, right? And so that was it. So and to be frank too, man, we weren't just like, oh, we got to get out of here fast. Like we weren't like that. It was
You
just
were
like, "Oh,
patient.
we'll keep an eye open, but we saw it. And that's another thing, that I'm so glad for this example for our kids because we knew eventually we wanted to get there. And all of a sudden there was this opportunity. And it wasn't the ideal time. It wasn't. But when is ideal? Like, when does that actually happen? That's not real. There's never an ideal time to make a big move in your life. To do a big to start the business, to start the family, to start. There's never the ideal time. Oh, I'll
Nope.
wait till tomorrow. Weak people choose tomorrow. That's not us. So as soon as we saw that, I was like, huh. My wife showed her. She's like, okay, all right. I'm like, I need to go fly out and take a look, man. So flew out, took a look, called her. I was like, yeah, I think this might be it. She's like, cool, man. Sight unseen. She's like, all right, then let's roll. It's like, okay, we got a lot of things to do. We have businesses in California. We have family in California. We have like, huh, this is gonna make a lot of people mad. This is gonna make, but it was like, man, no, we need to do this. We need to pull the trigger.
Are you using Starlink? Is that your internet right now? Is that what
You
works?
know
I'm
what,
just
man? We're
curious.
actually close enough somewhere where we don't have Star. I don't even remember. I don't know exactly what we have. I know we don't have Starlink though.
Okay. I
Um,
was curious. I was like, man, just because half the places I go check out, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's
that's
no
all.
signal. There's
Yeah.
nothing out there.
Right. Yeah, we're close enough. We're in a cool spot in the mountains where we're close enough to civilization to have something that works out here. So yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. It's not Starlink yet, but we're good.
Yeah, I would need some civilization. I am definitely a little more citified than the my dad's a great gardener and but I don't mind having a Wegmans pretty close, but we can make the space to grow it and to build it and I love building things. And when you can watch it actually grow and build, that's it's more value than anything I think that you can put a number on. And so and the kids are getting something that you can't do. Now, do you have a school out by where you are now, or is somebody doing is that a goal for you?
So I won't build another one because I can't. I'm going to spend all my time helping everybody else build, right? I'm going to
Right,
spend my time
correct.
on the expansion side. So I can't open one. I mean, I could, but it would stop everything else. So we'll just wait and see what happens out here. We've got two that are launching in North Carolina, but they're not in this. They're not in this area.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the closest one to us is like 4 hours away. So yeah, nothing. If it
I think I
happens,
saw Raleigh. I was it Raleigh, Durham area?
yeah, uh-huh, yep, that's the
Yeah,
closest one to us. That's launched out here. Yeah, um,
yeah.
but Virginia, we got something in Virginia too,
You have
man.
Falls Church. I noticed Falls
Yeah,
Church, which is not far from, where I'm at right now,
yep,
and then, there's nothing in the Hampton Roads area, which is surprising because with such a strong military,
there will be.
yeah, there's I have so many buddies, like,
Yeah,
we'll talk offline, but I have a lot of connections that maybe can,
yeah,
connect those dots, and,
yeah. There will be. I can almost guarantee you, 2025, there will be.
yeah, that's a no-brainer. That
Yeah,
is a absolute no-brainer. The mindset's there, the
hun-
opportunity's there, and the wealth of knowledge. I mean, I've interviewed guys on the show that like Jason Redmond lives in my neighborhood.
yeah,
And I'm like, we're talking, we've met at Catholic school, our kids went to the
yeah,
same Catholic school. And I'm like, Jason, you where do you live in Chesapeake? And he's like, oh, I live right down the street. And
yep.
I'm like, wait, I live in that same neighborhood, dude.
That's so funny.
So
That's awesome. Yeah,
hey,
there's a lot of good folks out there. Ray's out there too. Ray Care's a buddy, and
yeah.
he's out there in that area. We have yeah, I got a handful of friends out there in that area. It's a no-brainer for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love what you're doing,
Thanks.
Matt. I think number one, it's good to get a personal insight into your life and how you're executing it. You're living by example, and I think that's what's interesting. So many people follow leaders blindly without actually identifying if they live the life. And I know you know this. There's so many people that I get to know that I don't want to follow after I've got to know them.
Mhm.
um, I've read the books and I've followed the all the stuff that they put out, and it's bullshit. And so when you find people that are actually doing it and living it, it's really nice to hear.
Brother, I appreciate that more than you know because I know very well what you're talking about. And look, everybody's got their stuff, man, and everybody's got their places they can get better. And I'll be the first one to tell you all the places that I can get better. But it's it's the hypocrisy that's a problem. And I'm right there with you, so I understand. So thank you, and thank you
Yeah,
for what you're
you
doing.
could choose to play a part or you could choose to be yourself. And being ourself is imperfect, and we're going to own our mistakes and our problems, but we're not going to be inauthentic. And
100.
that's a difference that I think is really important. Matt, how do people find you? Give us one more way to find you. I know they can follow you on social media,
Yeah.
but what's the website they can go to one last time?
Yeah, thanks, man. So apogeestrong.com. So APOGEE strong.com. That's the best place to go to see everything that we're doing. Everything as it stands alone, everything as it comes together. By far the best place to go.
I know we have a lot of educators that listen to this, mainly because my wife probably turned you on to it and she knows you. And so at the end of the day, if you're listening and you want to make a difference, this is something to take a look at. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so grateful.
Honors mine, brother. Truly.